What's happening with Nvidia stock? We can see an incredible candle for the last day. First, we had a significant increase of almost 5%, and then from that peak, we dropped by a whopping 10% in a moment. This is a very serious paradigm shift, and today we'll explore what this could signify. Also, let's definitely look at options on Invidia. They will tell us a lot, especially about volatility. Let's examine the strikes leading up to this expiry. Perhaps I'll come up with a very interesting strategy. So what happened initially? Let's return to Nvidia stocks. Initially, we rallied very well, but we have Broadcom, a company that reported this week and plummeted by 7% after the report. Even though the report met all expectations, traders reacted very negatively to it. Why is this company important to us? Because it partially influences the entire semiconductor market. It even heavily impacts the entire market, thus affecting Nvidia as well. If we look at the bigger picture, the semiconductor market felt very bad on this day. Anything related to semiconductor company. But I want to remind you that all this unrestrained growth in the indices was precisely linked to artificial intelligence and semiconductors. And if this is the final movement, then the market might correct itself quite significantly in the near future. Let's immediately look at the volatilities. She will give us answers as to where the stock might go. Firstly, as we see, its volatility has increased significantly recently. I remind you that volatility increases not only when the stock falls, but also when it rises very strongly. That is, if the movement deviates from its normal values, volatility increases. So we see that it has increased across all strikes, especially the near-term strikes. Let's look at the volatility smile. Here, a very interesting situation unfolds. If we look at the nearest strikes, for example, the options expiring next week on March 15th, we see a smile. It's even in terms of both rising and falling, indicating a good balance. Therefore, next week, traders and speculators are not making clear bets on whether the stock will go up or down. But if we look at more distant dates, we see that they are heavily skewed towards the downside. This is generally normal because options are used for hedging. Therefore, the put of options should generally be more significant because on the opposite side, we have the underlying asset. But here, as we see, it's quite skewed, and this should be noted. Also, let's look at the open interest in options, which is a very important thing. We have call options concentrated at 500, 700, also at 900, definitely at 1,000, and a quite large open interest. For Nvidia, there is also a very high demand for put options. But what I really want to draw attention to, my friends, is here you must understand the essence of the next strike, the next expiration date, which is March 15th. That is next week. And as we see, the majority of volume, well, yes, of course, it's not as large compared to others, but it takes a very, very large portion accordingly. There are a lot of open calls for next week, and they will either expire worthless or need to be rolled over. What does this tell us? That volatility, of course, will be very high for this stock. The closer the calls, the higher their volume, the less stable the stock behaves. Also, I want to show you the ratio of historical volatility to implied volatility. As we can see, implied volatility, which is the volatility seen at the moment, is much higher than its historical value. And we all conclude that very good strategies can be created for volatility crushes, that is, for reducing volatility. I will show later how to profit from this, even though I don't know where this stock will go. But I want to mention a very important point. All this movement was also related to a phenomenon called gamma squeeze. What is a gamma squeeze? We have a certain symbol, which is delta and gamma. Gamma is the rate of change of delta. This means that when you buy, for example, a call option, someone will have to sell it to you, usually a market maker. But the market maker has to hedge this sold option. And the strategy mainly used is delta hedging. It allows selling options to you without risks. And for every sold option, the market maker must buy shares according to the delta. For example, if the delta is 0.6, then he must buy 60 shares for one sold call option. This is roughly speaking. But the faster the stock rises, the more the delta changes. That is, the delta also increases, and he must buy more shares for the already sold options. So he sold options long ago, but since delta hedging is a dynamic strategy, it means he must buy more each time. And this leads to incredible growth, meaning the stocks rise, calls rise, and the market maker must buy more and more of these shares, pushing the stock higher and higher. Until when will this continue? Until there is a sharp price drop. That is, until the market maker stops buying shares. And then all the sold options, which are in the money, will expire worthless, and the market maker will work in a completely different direction. As we saw a huge upward trend, the downward trend will be much, much faster because the market maker must quickly and strongly get rid of these shares. This needs to be paid very close attention to. The question is when this can happen. This is something no one knows, not even a market maker, and they don't know it either. Whether this is happening right now, I can't tell you. Again, I'm not good at predicting price movement, whether it will go up or down. My main goal is to manage positions intelligently, to construct positions so that no matter which way the stock goes, we still make money. If you have any questions, email me. I'll help you develop a strategy. So if this situation is happening right now and market makers are flipping, we could expect a decent downward movement. But again, it's important to understand that there's no guarantee here. As we can see, the volatility across all strikes, if we look at it, is just very high. Also, I conducted a survey in my channel about our sentiment, and it seems that the majority of votes are for a positive outlook. Again, I'm by no means giving advice, but if I had stocks, I would close them at the moment. That's it. I wouldn't do anything more for now. The hype is too high, and it always scares me a lot. Can we reach $1,000 again? Yes, of course. We can even grow more, but with the risk ratio accustomed at the moment. Again, not on the investor side. I'm talking about if you buy now and the stock still grows to $1,000, you'll only make $120. But it can also fall to $600, very close. So the ratio is not in your favor. Math plays against you and the theory of probability. And here you must not neglect these data, these values. You should have the mathematical expectation on your side, and only then will you start making money. If you set the mathematical expectation, you practically stop losing money. Let's try to develop an interesting stock on Nvidia now. I specifically accelerated the video. Now let's take a look at my strategy. Again, disclaimer, never mimic my actions. If you do, you'll definitely lose money. At the moment, I won't disclose this strategy exclusively for comedic purposes between us. As we can see, those who understand this profile's effectiveness in stocks will go wherever the stock goes. Our cuts are positive. So if the stock grows to $1,000, we'll earn $18,000. If it drops to $870, we'll earn $8,000. As we see, there are no losses. Again, losses can occur if the stock moves. But again, managing this position will be crucial. I highly recommend not doing this without prior preparation. If you want to do this, it's better to write first via email. There you can get advice on what and how. Returning to this stock, you can earn well on it because the volatility is very high, but just not through the underlying asset. I wouldn't recommend dealing with the underlying asset. That is, don't do anything with the stocks themselves, because it's quite dangerous at the moment. I've also heard rumors and news about a stock split, but mostly it seems like speculation to me, to drive the stock even higher. I also recommend watching this video. There I also analyze stocks and show my strategies.